It's story time with MSS. That's me. The shooting of Eddie Waitkus. Now, I was looking for stories, right? So I was like, I'm gonna get some Charles Comiskey stories, right? Like, because I've heard this guy's a douchebag. He's an asshole. He wasn't really. He was cheap, but like, if you go in and you look at a lot of this stuff, and I looked at a lot of the Sabre stuff, like he paid his players more than the average. You know, like he was not as bad as everyone says he was. Because I was going to say, hey, we'll get rid of the Comiskey dog. Well, why do we need to remember that asshole? But then I was like, we really do need to remember that asshole because he actually wasn't as bad as everyone said he was. It's one of those things that's lost in history. You watch 8 Man Out, you think he's a douchebag. It really wasn't his fault. So I was looking around. I'm like, hey, let me find another story. I got to have some interesting stories. And I come across this guy, Eddie Waitkus. And if you guys have seen The Natural, his story is part of The Natural. They put some of that stuff in there, and they wrote a whole fucking book about him. Eddie Waitkus he was the Natural. Now let's get into who Eddie Waitkus was, and shout out to Retro Simba, which is I feel like a Cardinals blog on WordPress, which is where I stole a lot of this information from, and also MSS supported Wikipedia. I took a lot of information from too. So that's how we get these stories, and we get them all to line up. Eddie Waitkus was the son of a Lithuanian immigrant who settled in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He was an honor student and a standout athlete who excelled at baseball. Waitkus was mentored by Jack Burns, a Cambridge native who played first base in the American League for the Browns and the Tigers. Like Burns, Waitkus hit consistently well from the left side and developed into a sure-handed fielder. In 1938, while playing semi-pro baseball, Waitkus was named to an All-American team, prompting a Boston sports writer to hail him as a natural. According to the Society for American Baseball Research, which is Sabre, the Cubs signed Waitkus after giving him a tryout in September 1938. After 2 years in the minors, Waitkus, 21, made his big league debut as the starting first baseman for the Cubs on opening day in 1941. After returning to the minors in 1942, Waitkus began a 3-year hitch in the Army in 1943. An amphibious engineer, he experienced extensive combat in the Pacific, including New Guinea and the Philippines, narrowly escaped being taken prisoner by the Japanese, and earned 4 Bronze Stars. Waitkus returned to the Cubs after the war and was their first baseman from 1946 to 1948. In 1948, he was selected to the National League All-Star team. Now, we're going to talk about his friend. Ruth Ann Steinhagen was born in Cicero, Illinois, and grew up in Chicago household. As a teenager, Steinhagen became infatuated with actor Alan Ladd and Cubs outfielder Peanuts Lowry. Now, who the fuck names their kid Peanuts? And how does this motherfucker end up playing baseball? This is awesome.
I just like that Alan Ladd's in there.
Alan Ladd.
The wrong answer in Goodfellas, but the right answer here, Shane.
Yes. Beautiful. In 1947, when she was 17, she turned her attention, her stalking, her obsessive behaviors towards Waitkus. Steinhagen built a shrine to Waitkus in her bedroom, talked about him constantly, and regularly bought tickets for seats near first base at Wrigley Field. I used to go to all the ball games just to watch him. Steinhagen waited outside the club's clubhouse after games to get a glimpse of Waitkus, but they never met and never had contact. Now, I watched a little thing from Chicago Public Television today while I was writing up some notes, and apparently she was waiting outside a clubhouse, and the first time she ever saw him, she full-on fainted because she was that close to him. She fainted right on the fucking ground.
That's a bad start.
Okay, but they never met. They never talked.
Hello.
I'm not terrified.
Following the 1948 season, the Cubs traded Waitkus to the Philadelphia Phillies. Once he was traded to the Phillies, Steinhagen's obsession grew to dangerous proportions. In early May 1949, Steinhagen said she decided to kill Waitkus. She told her mother and a friend of her intentions, according to the United Press, but they did not believe her. According to the New York Times, Steinhagen also said, I was just building in my mind the idea of killing him. As time went on, I just became nuttier and nuttier about the guy. I knew I would never get to know him in a normal way, so I keep thinking, I will never get him, and if I can't have him, nobody else can. Then I decided I would kill him. Steinhagen reserved a room at the Edgewater Beach Hotel, where the Phillies stayed, and registered as Ruth Ann Burns of Boston. She brought with her a paring knife featuring a 3.5-inch blade and a .22 caliber rifle. She was planning to stab him and intended to use the gun to commit suicide. On June 14th, 1949, the Phillies played the Cubs at Wrigley Field. After the game, she went to the hotel room. Waitkus went to a restaurant to have dinner with friends. While he was out, Steinhagen tipped a bellhop $5 and asked him to deliver a note to Waitkus. Steinhagen ordered 2 whiskey sours and a daiquiri from room service, settled in with her drinks, and waited for Waitkus to respond. The note said, "Mr. Waitkus, it's extremely important that I see you as soon as possible. We're not acquainted, but I have something of importance to speak to you about, and I think it would be to your advantage to let me explain it to you." After insisting she was leaving the hotel the next day and pressing the timeliness of their request, she concluded, "I realize this is a little out of the ordinary, but as I said, it's rather important. Please, come soon. I won't take up much of your time, I promise." Waitkus asked the desk clerk to tell him who had registered in room 1297A. When informed it was Ruth Ann Burns of Boston, Waitkus wondered whether it might be a relative of his hometown baseball mentor, Jack Burns. Waitkus joined teammates Bill Nicholson and Russ Meyer for a drink at the hotel bar. He showed them the note and decided to act out of curiosity. I had started to fall asleep when the phone rang and a voice said, "What's this all about?" It was Eddie. Steinhagen said to the International News Service, "I told him it was important. I see him, but I could not see him tomorrow. He said he couldn't make it, and I said, how about tonight?" Waitkus' son later speculated that his father may have thought he had a hot honey on the line, so he agreed to go to the room. Waitkus agrees to come to the room in 30 minutes. When he arrived, about 11:30, he knocked on the door. Steinhagen opened the door and asked him to enter. She was holding a purse containing the knife. Waitkus entered the room briskly, startling Steinhagen and giving her no time to reach for the knife. He walked toward the far corner and sat down in an armchair. "I might not have shot him if he had come in differently without so much confidence," Steinhagen said to the United Press. He swaggered in. As Waitkus settled into the chair, Steinhagen reached into the closet for the rifle, pointed at him, and told him to stand near the window, the Chicago Tribune reported. "I thought at first it was a practical joke," Waitkus said. "I thought the players had planned it." Steinhagen wasn't fooling. "She had the coldest looking face I ever saw," Waitkus said. "Absolutely no expression." "I have a surprise for you," Steinhagen told Waitkus. "You're not going to bother me anymore." "What have I done?" he pleaded. Steinhagen shot him in the right side of his chest at the range of 5 feet. The bullet pierced the lung, ripped into his thick muscles in his back, and lodged near his spine. Waitkus slumped to the floor, rolled on his back, and said, "Oh, baby, why did you do that?" Steinhagen told police she lacked the courage to commit suicide as planned. Now, I read this in another blog. She didn't have another bullet, so she couldn't kill herself. So, and I don't know.
Good first shot. You gotta admit.
She just had one bullet. And I don't know if I've shot a .22. I've never shot. That's the only gun I've ever shot. A .22 isn't anything. You could kill a maybe a squirrel. You know, like you can't kill much with a .22. So you're probably not going to have you can mess your brain up maybe, but I don't think you're going to kill yourself.
From 5 feet, you could definitely kill someone.
Well, I don't know, man. They're really small bullets. Anyway. Bless the shirt. They're bullets, though.
This is a challenge. Tracy, this is a challenge. We're going to shoot MSS with a 22 and see what happens.
How much money you got? Let's just. You put me. I have health insurance. How much money you got? So anyway, Steinhagen told police she lacked courage to commit suicide as planned. She called the hotel operator and said she had shot a man. She held Waitkus's head on her lap until help arrived. Now, so this poor guy gets shot by this woman. He has no idea. He's going in there thinking maybe he's going to get peace. And then he gets shot by the woman. And not
Too horny.
And even after that, she grabs him. He can't move because he's been shot. And she's like, "Oh, here, sit in my lap. I'll comfort you now that I've tried to kill you." I mean, this is total insanity. Who the fuck? I mean, I can't. No. Doctors said Steinhagen was suffering from schizophrenia or a split personality, and she is either schizophrenic or deep in the influence of a major hysteria. On June 30th, 1949, 2 weeks after the shooting, Steinhagen was arraigned on a charge of assault with intent to commit murder, indicted on the charge by a grand jury, and found insane by the jury. Chief Justice James McDermott of Criminal Court in Chicago committed Steinhagen to a state mental health hospital, which I think is in Kankakee. Yes. Waitkus did not press charges against Steinhagen, but a criminal court judge ruled her insane and ordered her to committed to the Kankakee State Hospital, where she stayed for nearly 3 years after the shooting. Further charges were never brought against her, and she lived a reclusive life in Chicago's Northwest Side. Now, Waitkus spent a month in Chicago Hospital before returning to Philadelphia on July 17th in 1949. Living alone in a Philadelphia apartment, unsure of his baseball future, and physically weak and emotionally scarred, Waitkus told J.G. Taylor Spink of the Sporting News, "If I had thought I had to go through the same thing again, the many operations, the fears, the uncertainty, the mental torture, I think I would rather die. It was really rugged." In November 1949, Waitkus went with Phillies trainer Frank Wellick to Clearwater Beach, Florida, and underwent a grueling 3-month program to get physically fit to play baseball. By the time the Phillies reported for spring training in Florida in February 1950, Waitkus was ready to join them. If it had not been for
this
Frank,
guy played again after
he did.
this?
No, not only did he play,
It's impressive.
You just take a minute. So, but like, okay, and again, this is 1950, and he's talking about how grueling the workout program is. I can only imagine what barbaric things they were doing, like go wrestle this alligator, or go catch this dolphin.
That's how you get your punctured
just
lung
weird
strong.
shit.
I assume it was like
Leeches.
You got to run. Give me 50 laps while you're smoking a pack of cigarettes.
Well,
Bullet went through his chest, man.
now listen,
Got to work those lungs out.
there's a lot
Plus
coming.
your stress.
Now, Teresi, there's a lot coming. You might have just hit on something. If it had not been for Frank, our trainer, I don't think I could have done it, Waitkus said. He was a combination of a father, confessor, and a Simon Legree. I don't know what the fuck that means, but anyway, I should have Googled it, and I didn't. Fucking my bad. It was he who felt the wrath of all my worries, my pent-up fears, who listened sympathetically when my nerves were jagged. And that was one thing his son said, too. Like, he was a confident dude, and then, he lost all his confidence after he got shot by a woman in a hotel. I mean, it fucks with your mind.
I can see it, yeah.
Right?
That seems obvious to me.
Don't feel too bad, though, because while in Clearwater Beach, Waitkus met a 20-year-old Carol Weber, who, while was vacationing with her family from New York, the couple were married. Yeah, not yet. The couple were married a year later on November 17th, 1951. Waitkus earned back his job at spring training in 1950. Dick Sizzler, great name.
Attaboy.
The former Cardinal who replaced Waitkus at first base after the shooting went to left field, just like another guy we know, except he went from left field to first base. So maybe somebody's going to shoot Andrew Vaughn. Who knows? Waitkus batted .284, had 182 hits, and scored 102 runs for the 1950 Phillies, who won the National League pennant. Though the Phillies were swept by the Yankees in the World Series, Waitkus had 4 hits and 2 walks in the 4 games. So he took his team to the
all the way back.
Soon after the start of the 1952 baseball season, Steinhagen was released from the psychiatric hospital where she had spent 3 years. She moved back into the Chicago house with her parents and her sister and disappeared into near obscurity, according to the Trip. Waitkus continued to hit for average, .289, .290, but the Phillies sold his contract to the Orioles in 1954. At 34, he no longer was considered an everyday player. The Orioles released Waitkus in July 1955. The Phillies signed him and released him again after the season. He finished his playing career with a .285 batting average and 1,214 hits. According to the Society for American Baseball Research, Waitkus began drinking heavily. He went to work for a trucking company, which I don't know how those two mix up, but hey, battled alcoholism and depression. His marriage suffered, and he and Carol, the parents of 2 children, separated in 1960. In 1961, Waitkus, suffering from anxiety, was admitted to a hospital for treatment. His son, Eddie Waitkus Jr., known as Ted, told the Denver Post the shooting was an emotional part of his father's life. His nerves were shattered for a while. In the shooting, the son said, he survived 3 years in the jungles of the Philippines with barely a scratch. And he comes back here, and this crazy honey with a gun, as he used to say, takes him out. I love it. I love it. I guess there was a whole book written, too, about, the hardest part about baseball. It's the dames was the name of the book. It was all the girls. I just, went crazy on it, which, all right, I guess it was. In 1963, Waitkus moved back to his hometown of Cambridge and rented a room in a house. Oh, that's so sad. He lived alone and spent summers as a coach at the Ted Williams baseball camp in Lakeville, Massachusetts. A longtime smoker, Waitkus, 53, died at a Veterans Administration hospital in Boston on September 16, 1972, a victim of esophageal cancer. 40 years later, Steinhagen, 83, died on December 29, 2012, after an accidental fall in her house. There were no survivors. She was a recluse who never spoke of the shooting. Her death went unnoticed until the Chicago Tribune reported it 3 months later on March 15, 2013, while reviewing public records for another story. And that is MSS Storytime for Eddie Waitkus.